Princess Charlotte is 11 years old, and she has already been called the image of Queen Elizabeth II, more times than most royals here in a lifetime. The comparisons show up in her face, her posture, her sense of duty, and even the way she shakes a stranger's hand. This is the story of how a little girl born 11 years ago became the royal family's clearest link to the woman who defined the modern monarchy, and why that link keeps getting stronger every time she steps in front of a camera. It starts, like most things with Princess Charlotte, with a photograph. Every year around Christmas, the Wales family walks to church at Sandringham, waves at the crowd, and disappears back inside for lunch. It's a small, quiet tradition. But in recent years, that walkabout has produced the same headline over and over again. Charlotte looks like the Queen. The most recent version of this came when a picture from the annual Christmas Day walkabout at Sandringham started circulating alongside a photo of a young Princess Elizabeth taken decades earlier. Princess Charlotte bore a striking resemblance to her late great-grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II. During the annual Christmas Day walkabout at Sandringham in Norfolk, people couldn't stop sharing it. Some viewers were completely convinced, others weren't buying it at all. On social media, one fan wrote, "Looks so much like Elizabeth," while another argued, "I don't see the resemblance to Queen Elizabeth. She looks so much like Prince William." Somebody else jumped in, insisting Charlotte was the spitting image of her father, and another said she looked more like Diana. This isn't a one-off, it's a pattern that's been building since she was a toddler. Back when Charlotte was just 6 years old, William and Kate posted a family Christmas photo on Instagram, and the comments section flooded instantly. Fans immediately filled the comments section with messages about Princess Charlotte's likeness to Queen Elizabeth. One person wrote that the older Princess Charlotte was getting, the more she was becoming like Queen Elizabeth, and someone else flat out called her the Queen's double. When people held that childhood photo of Charlotte next to a childhood photo of young Elizabeth, the resemblance became obvious. If you looked past the hairstyles, the eyes and nose were nearly identical. So this has been going on for years, at every age, at every event. What makes it stick, though, isn't just the face. It's the timing of when people started noticing and who noticed first. Here's the detail that changes the whole conversation. The Queen herself heard about it while she was alive, from someone whose job it was to read a room. According to Hugo Vickers' biography of the late monarch, Queen Elizabeth II herself had a very heartwarming reaction when she was told of the close resemblance, and the comment didn't come from a tabloid columnist chasing a headline. It came during a night Nicola Sturgeon, then Scotland's First Minister, spent at Balmoral. Vickers recounts that Sturgeon made the perceptive remark that Princess Charlotte was very like the Queen. Think about what that means. This wasn't fan speculation on a comment thread. It was a sitting head of a devolved government, sitting across from the monarch herself, independently landing on the exact same observation millions of strangers online kept making. That's the moment worth pausing on, because it tells you this comparison isn't just projection from royal watchers desperate for a story. It's something people who actually knew Elizabeth in person picked up on too. And once the coronation happened in 2023, the volume on these comparisons only went up. Following King Charles's coronation in 2023, fans soon compared the young royal to Queen Elizabeth, with people writing things like they'd always said Charlotte was the image of the Queen, pointing specifically to what they called the look of determination in her eyes. So why does a face matter this much? Because in a family built on public image, resemblance isn't just a genetic accident, it's a signal. It tells the public who might be carrying something forward. And Charlotte wasn't just carrying a face. She was about to start showing, engagement by engagement, that she'd inherited the manual too. By the time she was a preschooler curtsying to her actual great-grandmother at a Christmas service, Charlotte wowed royal fans, curtsying to Queen Elizabeth and offering plenty of handshakes during the outing. That's a 4-year-old doing the job. And once you notice a 4-year-old doing the job perfectly, the question stops being, does she look like the Queen, and starts becoming something much bigger. Does she act like her too? That question is where the real story begins. If the face got people talking, the behavior is what convinced them. And this is where the comparison stops being about cheekbones and starts being about character. Go back to 2016. Charlotte is 1 year old, making her first public appearance at Trooping the Color. She's a baby. Nobody expects composure from a baby. But even then, during her first public appearance at Trooping the Color in 2016, the young royal charmed royal well-wishers with her adorable waving. It sounds small, it wasn't. The royal wave isn't a natural thing a toddler does. It's a taught, practiced motion. Royal commentator Victoria Arbiter has described it to ABC News as a very specific gesture, a vertical hand with a slight twist from the wrist. A classy affair that oozes decorum but doesn't get too excitable. Charlotte picked it up before she could talk in full sentences, and she never stopped. Since her first public debut, Princess Charlotte is frequently photographed waving enthusiastically, alongside her siblings, Prince George and Prince Louis. But waving is the easy part. The harder part, the part that actually built her reputation, is what she does when the cameras catch her managing everyone else. At the Platinum Jubilee balcony appearance, with the entire country watching, Charlotte was caught mid-correction. At the late Queen's spectacular Platinum Jubilee celebrations, Charlotte sweetly corrected her brother Prince George's posture during their final balcony appearance, reportedly telling him, as royal watchers noted, something close to "arms down, George." A 7-year-old correcting the future king's posture live on the most photographed balcony in the world. That clip went everywhere. It wasn't cute by accident. It was cute because it revealed something real about how she sees her role among her siblings. That same instinct showed up again at Queen Elizabeth's funeral in 2022, one of the heaviest, most solemn events the family has ever had to walk through in public. Charlotte, 7 years old at the time, was seen reminding her brothers of etiquette, gently telling George to bow at the right time during Queen Elizabeth II's funeral. Think about the pressure of that day. Full state ceremony, global cameras, a genuinely grieving family. And it's the middle child quietly keeping the protocol on track. It happened again at the coronation. Charlotte also seemed to be guiding Louis at the King's coronation. In May 2023, with the pair arriving at Westminster Abbey hand in hand. And it happened again during the 2025 VE Day parade, where she reportedly stood serenely like an old pro and shot a big sister warning look at Prince Louis during the royal family's balcony appearance. Royal expert Jenny Bond summed up the ongoing job description to the Mirror. Charlotte seems to keep a watchful eye on her little brother and make sure he's behaving, though. She's not always successful. Now, here's where it connects directly back to the Queen, not through a magazine writer's opinion, but through Elizabeth's own words. In January 2018, at a church service in Sandringham, the Queen was chatting with a woman named Ellen Clay, whose 10-year-old daughter Emily had just received a Bible from the monarch. The late Queen Elizabeth even commented on her great-granddaughter's strong personality in 2018 while speaking to mother of two, Ellen Clay, at a church service in Sandringham. Elizabeth asked whether Emily looked after her younger sister. Ellen said it was actually the other way around. The younger one did the looking after, and Elizabeth immediately recognized the pattern from her own family. She replied, "It's like that with Charlotte and George." Ellen's husband Tom later explained the dynamic simply. It's often the case that a younger child is more confident. It's second child syndrome. That's the Queen herself, in her own words, identifying Charlotte's leadership streak years before the funeral, the coronation, or the VE Day balcony. She wasn't reacting to a viral clip. She was describing something she'd already seen up close at Sandringham in her great-granddaughter's day-to-day behavior. Body language experts eventually caught on to the same thing on camera at the 2022 Commonwealth Games. Charlotte made her first solo public engagement without George or Louis. Meeting swimmers and hockey players on her own, one expert broke down the moment she shook hands with Dominica swimmer Warren Lawrence, noting she'd needed nudging to shake hands before, but this time she looked quite keen to shake hands and was actually enjoying the process. Her arm held up at a very assured angle. The expert's conclusion was blunt. The angle of her hand and her facial expression were so similar to the Queen's. There was a hint she might have been using Gan as her body language role model. So now the picture is filling in. It's not just a resemblance in photographs anymore. It's a resemblance in instinct. A child who manages a room the way the Queen used to manage a room, who corrects posture the way the Queen once corrected protocol, who reads a crowd the way the Queen read a crowd for 70 years. But instinct alone doesn't explain everything. Some of what people are seeing isn't inherited. It's learned directly from private moments nobody was supposed to see. And that's the next layer of the story. Everything so far has happened in public. Cameras, balconies, funerals broadcast to hundreds of millions. But some of the strongest evidence for this comparison never happened on camera at all. It happened at Sandringham, at Christmas, behind closed doors, in a family tradition. Nobody outside the walls ever gets to see charades. Royal author Phil Dampier, who's written about Diana and has sources inside royal circles, revealed something a few weeks before Christmas 2024 that reframed the entire comparison. It wasn't about looks anymore, it was about talent. Princess Charlotte is very good at impressions, something Her Majesty was also good at. Dampier told Hello Magazine directly, "I'm told Charlotte has also inherited from the late Queen a brilliant ability to mimic prominent figures." And he explained exactly where that skill gets used. That should come in handy at Christmas when the royals gather in the evening at Sandringham to play charades, the same setting where Elizabeth herself used to perform. Because according to Dampier, Queen Elizabeth used to have her family in stitches with her impersonations of politicians, including US presidents and former Russian leader Boris Yeltsin. Stop and think about what that detail actually does to the story. Up until now, every comparison had been visual or behavioral, something the public could watch and judge for themselves. This one is different. Nobody outside that dining room at Sandringham has ever seen Charlotte do an impression. The public can't verify it, can't clip it, can't argue about it online with side-by-side photos. It's a piece of family folklore, passed along by someone with access. That suggests the resemblance runs somewhere the cameras can't reach. Into personality, timing, comic instinct. The exact same instinct that let a monarch famous for stoicism secretly have a wicked sense of humor behind closed doors. That's echoed elsewhere too. Royal commentary has repeatedly noted that. Charlotte's known to have a giggle, and Queen Elizabeth was also renowned for her witty sense of humor. The public image of Elizabeth was steady, formal, controlled. The private one, the one only family and close staff ever saw, was funnier, looser, sharper. If Charlotte really has inherited the impressions and the giggle, she's not just echoing the Queen the world watched. She's echoing the Queen almost nobody got to see. This is also where a different kind of resemblance starts showing up. Not performance, but temperament under stress. In 2025, Kate Middleton went through cancer treatment, one of the hardest years the family has faced in recent memory. And according to insiders who spoke to Hello, Charlotte wasn't just a bystander during it. Insiders dished to the outlet that Charlotte was invaluable to her family during her mother, Princess Catherine's cancer treatment too, stepping up to be there for everybody in their time of need. Royal author Phil Dampier put it plainly elsewhere, saying Charlotte has been a great source of strength for Kate during her cancer treatment. That detail matters because it lines up with something Winston Churchill said about Elizabeth herself when she was a child, long before she ever wore a crown. Dampier has drawn the comparison directly. Winston Churchill once said of the late Queen Elizabeth when she was a child that he had never seen such maturity in someone so young, and Charlotte seems to have inherited that trait from her great-grandmother. A wartime prime minister looked at a young Elizabeth and saw something unusual in a child that age. Decades later, a royal biographer looks at Charlotte during her mother's illness and sees the same thing. That's not a coincidence anyone can point to and prove biologically, but it's a pattern that keeps repeating at exactly the moments when the family needed someone steady. Even her name was built around this connection before she'd done anything at all to earn it. Charlotte's full name is Charlotte Elizabeth Diana, and her full name carries deep family meaning, honoring both Queen Elizabeth II and Princess Diana. William and Kate didn't wait to see if she'd grow into the comparison. They wrote the Queen's name onto her the day she was born, and by all early reports, Charlotte is widely reported to have called her great-grandmother Gan, a sweet glimpse into their close family bond. So here's where the story turns. A name chosen in advance, a private talent nobody could see coming, a steadiness under family crisis that echoes a wartime observation about a 6-year-old future monarch. None of this is something Charlotte performed for cameras. It's something that surfaced when nobody was specifically looking for it. Which raises the real question the rest of this story has to answer. Is any of this just charm, or is it actually preparation for a job that's still decades away? To answer that, you have to look at the one thing that makes Charlotte's position completely different from every royal daughter before her. A law that was passed specifically so a girl like her could never be pushed aside. Here's the thing that separates Charlotte from literally every young princess who came before her in British history. She was born with a legal guarantee that no brother, no matter how many came after her, could ever knock her down the line of succession. And that guarantee was signed into law by the same monarch everyone keeps comparing her to. One of the most defining aspects of Charlotte's royal status comes from the succession to the Crown Act 2013, a landmark change introduced during Queen Elizabeth II's reign. Before that act existed, the rule was simple and, by modern standards, brutal. A younger brother could always leapfrog an older sister. Princess Anne experienced this her whole life, younger than Charles, but also displaced by younger brothers Andrew and Edward, simply because of gender. That rule stood for centuries. Elizabeth herself only became queen because she had no brothers at all, not because the rule had changed. Then, in 2013, 2 years before Charlotte was even born, the rule flipped. The law ended male preference primogeniture for those born after October 2011, meaning Charlotte's position was never overtaken by her younger brother, Prince Louis. When Louis arrived in 2018, under the old system, he would have immediately jumped ahead of Charlotte in line to the throne. Under the new one, he didn't. Charlotte became the first female royal in British history whose position in the line of succession could not be displaced by a younger brother. So even after the birth of Prince Louis in 2018, she retains her place ahead of him. Today, she sits third in line to the throne, behind only her father and her older brother George. This is the piece that turns a cute family resemblance into something with actual constitutional weight. Elizabeth didn't just pass down a face or a set of mannerisms. She personally signed off on the legal framework that guarantees Charlotte's spot can never be erased by biology or birth order. Royal commentators have picked up on exactly this irony. Charlotte remains third in line to the throne, a position that reflects both tradition and the modernized monarchy her great-grandmother helped shape. So now every one of those balcony corrections, every funeral etiquette reminder, every charades performance at Sandringham sits inside a bigger frame. This isn't just a little girl who happens to remind people of her great-grandmother. This is a little girl who was legally guaranteed a permanent, protected role in the monarchy's future by the very woman she keeps getting compared to. The resemblance and the guarantee arrived almost together within a few years of each other, and the public has spent the years since watching to see if the behavior would catch up to the legal status. There's a second layer buried in this that people bring up constantly: the title Charlotte could eventually hold. Princess Anne currently carries the title Princess Royal, a title traditionally reserved for the sovereign's eldest daughter, and it's not automatically passed down. Anne has to choose to relinquish it, and a monarch has to grant it. But royal watchers have consistently pointed to Charlotte as Anne's most likely successor for the honor. Charlotte will likely inherit Anne's Princess Royal title someday if she chooses to accept it when that time comes. And the connection to Anne isn't just about a title, it's about behavior too. Just like Anne kept her brothers King Charles, Prince Andrew, and Prince Edward in line, Charlotte is known to do the same with her brothers Prince George and Prince Louis. So Charlotte isn't sitting between just one legacy. She's positioned between two of them: Elizabeth's poise and public duty, and Anne's blunt, no-nonsense management of her siblings. Charlotte has often been compared to her great aunt, Princess Anne, for her behavior as an emerging working royal and their shared position as second-born children in the royal hierarchy. But even with all of that legal and titular groundwork laid out, none of it explains why the public keeps reaching for Elizabeth specifically, rather than Anne or Diana or Kate. A law can guarantee a position, it can't guarantee a personality. So the final question becomes the biggest one of the whole story. As Charlotte gets older, moves further from toddlerhood and closer to being a teenager who will eventually take on real royal duties, does the comparison to Elizabeth get sharper, or does it start to fade the way most childhood resemblances do? The answer to that determines everything about what kind of royal she's actually becoming. Most childhood resemblances fade. A baby who looks exactly like one grandparent at 2 years old often looks like a completely different relative by the time they're a teenager. Faces change, personalities diverge, and the internet moves on to comparing the next royal baby instead. That's the normal pattern. Charlotte has broken it. By her 11th birthday, the comparisons hadn't cooled off, they'd multiplied. When she attended the Together at Christmas Carol service at Westminster Abbey in December 2025, observers noted her traits looked strikingly similar to both Queen Elizabeth and Princess Diana at once. Many noticed her traits looked very similar to both Queen Elizabeth and Princess Diana. That's not a fading resemblance. That's a resemblance broadening to include a second beloved royal woman, while still holding on to the first comparison. The behavioral evidence has kept stacking too, right through her most recent public appearances. At Trooping the Color in the summer of 2026, body language expert Darren Stanton observed that Charlotte's behavior demonstrated her responsibility and leadership among her siblings, particularly in keeping them in check during public events. Noting she was poised but remained natural. Her body language relaxed and at ease, telling us she feels in control of the situation. An 11-year-old, still being described in the exact language people used for the young Elizabeth. Composed, in control, natural under pressure. Royal author Robert Hardman, who's written extensively about the family, gave People magazine one of the clearest summaries of why this comparison has legs rather than fading with age. He said you can definitely see traits of her great-grandmother in Charlotte, describing her as having practical common sense and being not camera-grabbing, but solid and responsible. That's a specific, almost technical description, not she's cute or she looks like her, but a judgment about temperament from someone who studies the institution for a living. A royal source told the same outlet that Charlotte is a natural when it comes to royal life, and has taken to royal events like a duck to water. Even the details that don't line up perfectly end up reinforcing the bigger picture instead of undercutting it. Elizabeth famously disliked the flood of phones that appeared at royal walkabouts in her later years. She abhorred all the cell phones that were taken out whenever senior royals made public appearances. Charlotte, by contrast, happily poses for selfies with members of the public. During Christmas walkabouts in both 2024 and 2025, that's a generational difference, not a contradiction. Proof that Charlotte isn't a carbon copy frozen in the 1950s, but someone adapting the same core instincts: warmth, patience, engagement with ordinary people to a completely different media environment. The Queen's discipline updated for a phone camera era she never had to deal with herself. And that's really the heart of what this comparison has become by 2026. It's not really about matching eyebrows or matching hairstyles anymore, even though those photographs still go viral every Christmas. It's about a specific, repeatable set of behaviors: waving before she could talk, correcting posture on a national balcony, guiding a younger brother through a coronation, staying steady during her mother's illness, reportedly doing impressions at a family dinner the public never sees, all of which keep landing in the same emotional register people associate with Elizabeth. Not performance for cameras. Instinct, showing up consistently across 7 years of public life at every major event the family has faced. There's still no way to know, with a girl who's only 11, whether any of this becomes something bigger. The same weight of duty Elizabeth carried for 70 years, or the same wit she kept mostly hidden from the public. Nobody can promise that a child's steadiness at a funeral or a coronation predicts the adult she becomes. Royal watchers have been wrong about young royals before, and Charlotte still has a childhood, a secondary school, and years of ordinary growing up ahead of her before any of this gets tested for real. But what's already on the record, the observations from Sturgeon and from Elizabeth herself, the funeral etiquette, the balcony corrections, the reported charades performances, the legal guarantee that locked in her place in line, adds up to something more specific than a passing resemblance. It's the reason that 11 years after she was born, people are still doing exactly what Nicola Sturgeon did at Balmoral, looking at Charlotte and seeing the Queen looking back.